What's poppin', world? I hope all is well. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and click that bell so you get notifications anytime I go live, anytime I post a video. If in any moment during this video you like what you're hearing, go ahead and hit that like button so we can get to the algorithm, more people can see this content. And please consider subscribing to the channel. We're growing fast. In the future, I'm going to do lives. I'm going to bring people up. I want to get your perspective on these topics. I want to talk about marriage, dating, relationships, the whole shebang, right? I want to talk about it all, and I want you to be a part of it. But without further ado, let's get into this. Today, we're going to talk about polygamy versus monogamy, right? Many individuals out here are starting to talk about relationships that involve more than one partner. And I just want to bring in these two groups, and I want to have a conversation. We're going to watch some clips from the Hardly Initiated podcast. Go check them out. They're putting some great content out over there. I'm going to play these clips, right? And in these clips, there's a debate going on between a polygamous couple and a monogamous couple, right? We're going to watch these clips, and I'm going to break this all the way down. Let's get into this.
How many partners do each one of you guys have, with you, Carl, on your end, as well as you as well, Kenya?
Yeah, for me, I have, Kenya as my wife for 28 years. I have my second wife. Her name was Karina Neri, and we've been together. It'll be 3 years coming up in May. And then I also have other who I consider partners or girlfriends who, I've been dating, some for, like I said, 10, maybe 15 years. Others are a bit newer. So, Kenya and Karina are my primary, what I call wives, which means that we've committed to be together for the rest of our lives. And, we do other things together as well. It could be business or supporting each other or, doing family things as well.
And I have several partners myself. I have two husbands that live with me and two husbands that live in other cities. So that's four husbands. And I have several boyfriends and friends. Those are different rankings. So friend, boyfriend, husband, for me, are all different rankings.
Incredible. Listen, first of all, I know the women like, I can't get one husband. You got four husbands?
Wow.
Yeah.
Kenya. Oh, my. Yeah. So you know what?
And just to confirm, everybody that's involved with you guys, they're aware of the main relationship and also kind of what their current status is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's one reason we like being polyamorous so much and teaching it in our communities, because it's a way to become honest, open, authentic in your relationship instead of like sneaking, hiding, lying, like so many do, even pastors or, people who are just in general, 66% of those married today are involved in adulterous affairs. And we think it's ripping our community apart.
And so that's why we're having a conversation, because we're trying to identify, because it's such a hot topic, but we really want to identify what the best relationship structure is.
No, it is. So look, thank you guys for coming up here and giving us a bit of insight into your marriage itself. What I'm going to do is put you guys backstage, and I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys both out so we can introduce it right after we have a quick chop up with the family real quick, okay?
All right.
All right.
Yeah, we got to talk to the...
All right, guys, so you saw that, you heard that. So they're polyamorous, right? Now that means that both of them have multiple partners, right? Multiple wives, multiple husbands, and then other people who are not necessarily classified as wife or husband, but might be boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, right? So as you heard there, the woman in that situation, right, she said she has, I believe it was four husbands, maybe some boyfriends under there, whatever, right? Let me tell you something. A woman who's in dealings with that many men is a hoe. She is a hoe. I don't care how she tries to paint it up and prime it up and this, that, and the third. A woman who is dealing with that amount of men at one time is a hoe. I don't care what they say, what they calling it. That is a hoe. That is not normal. Her soul is gone. Let me tell you, her soul is gone. Now, this man probably talked her into living this type of lifestyle because he wanted to live a particular lifestyle. But her soul is gone. That is not normal for a woman. Usually when a woman is in love with a man, All the other men are invisible. I'm going to say it again. Usually when a woman is in love or into a man, a particular man, right? She's got who she wants. All the other men are invisible, right? We're going to watch this other couple talk about it. Now, we're going to watch a Christian couple. I don't know if these other ones are Christians. Well, let's just say they're not. I'm just calling for what it is. They're not. We're going to watch a pastor speak on his marriage, and we're going to let this debate go back and forth, and I'm going to jump in from time to time. Let's get into this.
First thought is, if we're looking at monogamy and why it's maybe difficult or we see the divorce rate, why don't we first look at character of a person? Why don't we first figure out why people don't have the ability to have self-control? Why don't we look internally? I was just wondering, why do things have to be so drastic where when somebody doesn't have the ability to be truthful with their spouse, or they don't have the ability to utilize or to be able to project self-control, why does the flip side of it have to automatically be that I have to find a new partner or be with a new partner? Because it's not necessarily the issue of monogamy or polyamory. To me, it's more so an issue about self-control and your ability not to have integrity and not to be trustworthy with your partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anytime you start talking about the reason why the divorce rate is where it is, along with self-control, you also got to factor in the belief system.
Yeah.
Because that's extremely important also. A lot of us, if you want to just go into Christians too, a lot of us believe God just enough to be saved, but we don't believe God enough to sacrifice our lives completely to live it like he wants to live it. It's go for everybody. And so when you start talking about monogamy and marriage, the very first principle that we all have to understand when we're talking about being married is that I'm going to have to take off my selfishness, and I'm going to have to deny myself in order to become my wife. And regardless of whether it's monogamy or polyamory, when you're dealing with people, you're talking about dealing with work.
Right.
Talking about building. It's not going to be peaches and cream on this side. It's not going to be peaches and cream on that side. If you don't know what the purpose of marriage is, and if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, and if you haven't been groomed to live a sacrificial lifestyle, whether it's polyamory or monogamy, you're going to have a problem with people.
Correct, because many people, because we're coming from a biblical Christian background, many people know him as Savior, but many of us refuse to know him as Lord. So when I say that I am becoming one with someone, quite naturally, it's hard because there are parts of me that I knew of myself individually. I have to die to those parts because I am becoming one with my husband. So to go back, why is monogamy so hard? I think people have a really hard time dying to themselves to order to really literally allow Christ to be Lord over their life. So going back to the original question that you asked, it's not so much like monogamy is hard because people are going to people. I heard Kenya say earlier when she was talking about the divorce rates, about 60% end in divorces. And she even said that pastors have adulterous affairs. Absolutely, because pastors are people. Right. So it's a pastor that has an integrity problem. It's a pastor that does not have self-control. It's a pastor who is not sold out himself to literally knowing that Jesus Christ is not only his Savior, but he's also his Lord. So I'm really looking at this thing not so much as just this person that I'm going to be having sex with for the rest of my life, but marriage also requires me to really look at myself and say, Tiffany, are you able to be trustworthy enough to look at this man and be honest that when we do have hard times, because what I do learn about marriage is once I say I do, my feelings and my desires, they don't change overnight. I don't automatically marry my husband and all of a sudden I no longer see attractive men. But the fact of the matter is that once I sign up for marriage and the two have become one, it's the Holy Spirit that is the threefold cord that comes in and says, yes, Tiffany, you can look at him and maybe you can find him attractive, but this is also, you've made a holy covenant between you and your husband. You don't have to allow temptation to come in and that I have to act upon it. We're in society today where people want to be controlled by whatever they feel. We want to become our own God. So because I feel it, I have to act on it. Just because I feel it, that doesn't mean that I have to betray myself and also betray my husband, because when I go before God and I'm going in marriage, I'm making a covenant for better or for worse until death do us parts. So infidelity is just not betrayal to my husband, but it's betrayal to myself, and it's betrayal, of course, unto God, because I've made a holy covenant. So the real issue to me is character, lack of self-control, not really allowing your belief system to be your foundation for why you believe what you believe. Most people don't know why they believe. That's why you can hear something that sounds good, that appeases the flesh, and you run with it, because ultimately nobody wants to deal with self-control. Nobody wants to be able to deal with literally that I have chosen to allow the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to be over my life. So now it's a responsibility that I have to be able to withhold myself from expressing certain things.
And I'm done. God created us not for our feelings to govern us,
right,
but for us to govern our feelings. But we cannot govern our feelings if we're not governed by God, the Holy Spirit,
right,
the Spirit of God dwelling in us. That's our answer.
Whew, boy, that was a mouthful. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna break all of that down, what she said and then what he said. I can't break all of that down, but what I can say is this. A large part of that is this: we are supposed to die to ourselves, right? We have to learn how to deny ourselves as men and women, as human beings. We have to deny ourselves. We cannot go after everything we think we like. I'm gonna say it again. We cannot go after everything we think we like, right? Whether that be women, men, cars, houses. We cannot have it all. But a lot of these people who are in polyamorous relationships, they feel like, well, I have a desire for this. It's in my nature for this. There's this whole argument going down, this human nature argument, right? Or what's in a man's nature? Oh, what's in a man's nature to want all these women? Da, 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 da. But guys, listen, it's common sense. If you go after every woman you're attracted to, do you know the diseases you will have? Do you know the unwanted children you could possibly have? The amounts of unwanted children you could possibly have? Guys, this is a real thing. And there are risks in many of the things we do in life. And a lot of people say, oh, but yeah, that's rare that will happen if I do this. Or that's rare that happen if I do that. But when it comes to bonding with other men and women, right? Multiple at a time, there's a high risk of having unwanted children. That's a high risk. There's a high risk of catching diseases in this day and age. There's a high risk. So that's not one of those things where you can sit back and say, oh, well, you know, it's in my nature, so I should be able to get what I want and da-da-da-da. Listen, part of being a man or woman of God is being able to deny yourself, right? Die to self. You must die to self. But many people cannot do that. So they try to chase after these lifestyles and do this and do that. And in the end, they fall hard, right? They end up falling hard in the end. Next, we're going to watch a clip of the pastor talking. Let's see what he's got to say.
We are the creation. He is the creator. We are the resource. He is the source. In Genesis 2:24, when God created the world as a whole, when he created mankind, there was no sin. There was no flaws, nothing in whatever God created between Genesis 1 and Genesis 3 and 6. The Bible says that in Genesis 2:24 that God says, for this cause shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. That word cleave means to become holy, completely one. Two people becoming one, spirit, soul, and body. How could God be an all-knowing God, an all-power God, and create a being that is in his image and in his likeness, and give him an instruction to do something, but not empower him with the tools that he needs specifically to fulfill the instructions that he's been instructed. I believe totally 100% that we are monogamous beings. I totally believe 100% that God created us to be monogamous beings, and I totally disagree with that statement. And I just want to just stand on this to let you know that yes, we are created for monogamy, because we could not do anything if God hadn't put it in us in order to perform the function.
Pastor, real quick, because I think this is very important, because I
You saw that? You heard that? It's meant for us to be monogamous, right? He said for the man to lead a house, him and that woman come together to become one. Now, just because the society in many ways is out of whack, right? Many of us, as we go through adulthood, early adulthood, this, that, and the third, we have several partners, right? We go through different situations. It's hard to find that one. It's hard to find that match. It's hard to work through different problems and issues when we are bonded with someone. It's a lot going on out here, right? And then, like I said earlier, many of us are attracted to many people, right? Many of us find many people attractive. Let me say it that way. It is what it is. But again, that doesn't mean you have to have everything that you find yourself attracted to, whether that be another person, whether that be cars, houses, jobs, money, trips. It don't matter. Just because you're attracted to something or someone doesn't mean you gotta have it, right? We gotta get that concept out of our head. Just because we're attracted doesn't mean you gotta have it. Let's watch this next clip.
I just want each family to answer this question. What's the purpose of marriage?
The purpose of marriage is for the two to become one. The purpose of the marriage is for our marriage to be holy, set apart, and to be sanctified, fit for God's use. The purpose of marriage is for us to bless, for us to become, and for us to build, and for us to be a blessing to the other people that we come in contact with in life.
Yeah.
Understood.
And Carla, what are your thoughts on the purpose of marriage?
Pipedrive, the easy and effective CRM.
Growth and spiritual development. Your partnership and your union will challenge you. You will always be growing and developing your character vis-a-vis the challenges of the relationship and vis-a-vis the commitment to stick through the challenges with this person. So for us, the purpose is growth, and the benefit of growth is love. So if you grow with your partner, then now you are growing your love. But if you're running away at first sign of challenge, you're not growing through these challenges, you don't understand the purpose of the relationship.
That makes sense, and I'm just cracking up laughing because this is really on people's minds, because the chat is a little out of control right now. We got the super chats going crazy, so y'all really got something pumping. But I do want to get some insight into like the origin story, because I know we talked a bit about you guys' relationship origin stories, but I really want to get the origin story of your relationship philosophy. And this time we'll start with Carl and Kenya. So
All right, guys, in this next clip, we're going to see them kind of break down as to how this started. How did they start this polyamorous relationship?
Did it kick off? Where was the influence coming from in terms of now transitioning?
And as I play this one, I want you guys to watch her, right? Watch her. For one, her soul is gone. Now, she's going to come off as bride, and, they figured it out, and she's happy, and everything is great. But watch her. Look at her face. Look in her eyes, right? This is a woman whose soul is gone, right? Look at her. Look in her eyes. Look at her. Also, look at her body language, right? Look at how she's gone. She's kind of like nodding to everything, and her head is constantly moving. To me, her soul is not even there, right? She's just going along with this. She's pretending to be happy. I can see right through this. I'm gonna let you guys check this out. Look at this chick right here as he's talking, and then look at him. Look like his soul gone too. Let's get it.
A polyamorous relationship.
Yeah, well, we have a whole story about this. But essentially what happened is we were monogamous, meaning we were exclusive to each other when we got married. However, we were married by a family who was polygynous. So it was a man and his 2 wives who actually married us in front of our family, in front of our friends and community. So we were open to other things, but we were exclusive. And then into our relationship, Kenya, she had feelings for another man. And she came to me and we talked about it. And then we went to our marriage counselors, because one of the things that we did out the gate was we had marriage counselors from day one. So we, individual counselors and marriage counselors. And so we talked about it. We went through it. So we were able to have open, authentic communication around it.
But there was no cheating. You got to say that.
There was no cheating. There was none of that kind of stuff.
When we say emotional feelings, I met this guy and he was in my community. Like you meet someone at church or you meet someone at your school. And I was just like, I just had that feeling in my body, like Pastor Tiffany was mentioning. And I came right home and told him, because I was scared. I was like, I met this guy today, and like my heart was like, opening. I don't know what's going on. So we told our marriage counselors. They told me I had to squash it. But then I started having dreams about this guy. Didn't have his phone number, didn't have nothing. It's just that happened. That was the first sign.
And then about 4 years after that,
That got me scared straight.
Yeah. And then about 4 years after that, I had feelings of love for another woman, a woman on my job. And I came home and told Kenya about it. I said, I have these feelings of love. You see, you have to understand, with Kenya and I, we thought that monogamy was a thing that happened automatically when you got married.
Yep.
So we were genuinely confused when we even had feelings for somebody else or attraction for somebody else. We didn't know what was going on. So we would talk to each other about all the things we were going through. So Kenya and I talked about this. When I had the feelings, she actually met the woman. We actually talked about it just to try to understand what was going on. And then Kenya and I decided to talk about possibly opening up our marriage.
Yep.
The bottom line was Kenya said, well, if you can have other women, I should be able to have other men. I said no, because I was the standard. I was raised in this culture. So I was like, what are you even talking about? So we ended up talking about it for 2 years. After I was able to go through some tantric practices and really learn about feminine and learn, to love holistically and not cage women, I was able to open up a number of years later to us actually going into polyamory together as a couple. So that's a short version of our journey.
Wow.
All right. So you saw that, you heard that, right? So a part of that clip that I think is missing is the fact that he may have been the first one who, came home and said that he was interested in another woman, right? I don't think that clip told about that. So then eventually, she comes home, she's interested in another man, and, she can't hold it in. And she lets him know about it. They go to counseling. The counseling tells her, hey, this can't happen. Like, nah, you got to dead that. And time went on, they talked about it. And eventually, I guess he was open to it. But in most cases, 99% of the time, if a woman come home and tell her husband that she is interested in another man, that marriage is over. That marriage is over. I'll use myself as an example. If my wife was to come home and say, Maury, I'm into another man, I'm not going to get mad, right? But the marriage is going to end shortly after that, right? Or you might as well say immediately, right? We're going to talk about it, and we're going to come up with the arrangements. Like, yeah, all right, well, you go ahead and roll that way. It ain't going to work over here. It ain't going to work. But they have okayed this chaos, right? And from the looks of it, man, both of their souls are gone. Now, we're going to watch the next clip. And let's see. Let me jump down. Let me do this.
Stevens to the polyamorous lifestyle, but do you guys think it's possible for one person to meet your needs for the rest of your life?
I don't think it's possible for one person to meet your needs. I do feel it's possible for you to be exclusive with that person for the rest of your life. I don't think we need to lie to each other and try to claim that my husband or my wife is my all and everything. That's just not how we're built as human beings. We don't get anything from one source. But yeah, you can definitely be dedicated.
And check her out, guys. Let me pause it. Check her out as he's saying this. her soul is gone, because women want to know, like, I'm pleasing my man, like I'm all he needs. It is hard. It is a hard pill to swallow for a woman, or women in general, to sit here and accept the fact that they cannot please their man. Their man needs more than them to be satisfied. That is a hard pill to swallow. As he's saying that, look at her face. Look at her body language. Look at her eyes. It looks like her soul is clearly gone. And for the record, one woman can satisfy a man, right? Now, she's got to put in effort. She's got to have a genuine desire to want to do so, right? She's got to, now that could be hard to find. It could be hard to find, but it is possible. It is possible. I've been out here for years. I'm 35 years old. I can tell you right now, my wife, and I'm not saying that just because I'm on the screen. She might not even see this video, but she knows what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and can consistently do it, right? To make sure that I am satisfied in many ways. In many ways. So one woman can do it. Now, can you find that woman? That might be a challenge for you, or you might already have it. Or if you're a woman watching, maybe you're a woman that go hard. You're like, I know I can, right? But it can be done. Don't listen to the hogwash. It can be done. Let's keep watching.
Be sexually exclusive to one person for your entire life. You can be happy. You can be joyful in marriage. We totally support that. We totally believe that. Again, part of our mission is just to help people understand how to do that. Yes. Like, what are the tools to help you get past urges and, you desiring other things and not feeling you can communicate openly and honestly to your partner. Again, infidelity in marriage starts with, you not being able to open up to your partner. I think it was Tyshawn that you said, hey, if you have feelings, my wife has future feelings for somebody else, keep it to yourself. Well, that's the beginning of the end of marriage. You should be able to talk to your wife about absolutely everything you're going through. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying you should be able to. You should have the option. And she should be able to come to you. And the reason why marriages fail is because people don't feel they can be honest and open with each other. And why is that? Well, usually you have to hide a part of yourself in order to actually be with somebody. The same way we do on our first date. We try to put our best face forward. We hide certain things about who we are. Information we know that they would want to know about us, we keep that to ourselves, and that's fine. But at some point, you have to begin to open up and be authentic with your partner. And if you can't do that, then your marriage is not going to last.
Understood. Can you?
Right. So again, he continued on explaining how it's fine to have multiple partners because one partner cannot satisfy you. All right, let's roll over to this clip right here.
Field show. We've been doing this since 2005 and educating couples worldwide for 20 years. Thousands of saved marriages. We stopped divorces. So we were on Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil said the same thing. Remember, he said, "I wouldn't tell my wife." I said, "Would you tell your wife if you were?" His wife would hit him over the head. Yeah. I said, "Would you tell your wife if you were attracted to another woman at work?" He said, "No, she'll hit me on the head with a pan." I said, "Well, how are you in an authentic marriage?" It stops cheating if you can talk about it. Because the cheating is that you're ruminating. It's inside of you. It's going to pop out. You just need to be able to open up and say, this is what I've been thinking. Or I've been dreaming about my ex-boyfriend. What do I do? That's what we did. And it doesn't mean, and that's going to stop that ball rolling. That's one technique out of 20 that we have created to stop cheating. Is the authenticity piece has to be there.
Yeah, we want to make sure you all understand we're not pushing open relating to polyamory.
Because you're not ready.
Most people are not ready for that kind of truthfulness and that kind of openness. But we want people to understand that there are other ways to relate and that there are tools to help you be successful in any relationship that you choose.
Yeah. And I'm just curious.
All right, guys, you saw that. You heard that. Let me say this. Communication within a relationship and a marriage is very important, right? Both the man and the woman should be able to communicate with one another, right? But there's a huge difference between not being able to communicate with someone and kind of get your point across and come up with solutions versus just saying something and then being like, all right, well, since I don't like how you do this or how you do that, or you're not sufficient in this way, that way, I'm going to go ahead and grab somebody else and let me bring them in the picture. And then that way, you don't have to work on yourself. We don't have to work on this. We don't have to fix this. Let me just grab somebody else. And then, like, we should be straight. So they were trying to hammer the point home of, can you tell your wife this? Can you tell your husband that? Like, you should be able to be open with them. That's one thing. That's communication. You should be able to communicate. But you set that. You set the limitations for that. I don't even know if I want to say limitations. But you set the standard for communication early on. Early on, you come in, you open, you honest. Keep it real with them, right? And they go back and forth. And as you share those things, do them out of love. Do them out of love. Don't do it to hurt the other person. Don't do it to talk down on them. Don't do it to get one up on them. Do it out of love. Remember, knowledge without love will destroy. Knowledge without love will destroy. So again, you should be able to communicate with your spouse regardless, right? It doesn't mean that if I say this and they don't like it, I'm going to go out and grab somebody else, right? But communication is important. They're trying to hammer this communication point down. If you say this, they're going to hit you over the head with a pan. Nah, it's how you communicate effectively, but you got to begin that way. Don't begin all quiet and then try to open up. That will be problematic. You got to come into the relationship or the marriage with that open line of communication and keeping it real. Let's check out these next couple of clips and we're going to wrap this up.
God, the Holy Spirit. Like, God put me with my wife so my wife can bring the best out of me. I can bring the best out of her, right?
And right now, the Christian couple, these pastors, they're answering the question, can one person satisfy another? Is one person enough to satisfy you? They're answering that same question the other couple just answered.
Our marriage is built on truth, trust, and transparency.
Yeah.
The 3 T's. Before we start talking about how much we love each other, we talk about how much we like each other.
Absolutely.
We friends.
Yeah, we are.
We kick it. We do what we do.
Right.
You got me? Not saying that we don't have bumps. We don't have challenges. We don't have this. We don't have that. But at the same time, I like you.
Right.
You got me? And because I like you and because God is in the midst of this, every need I have.
Right.
Yeah, and this is not superficial. Like it's kind of like we're trying to make it seem like that it's impossible.
And
it is just not true.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it possible for my husband to please me and be the only man that I'm ever with? Absolutely. And I think like Carl said, exclusivity is possible in relationships. It's just one of those things where if I want something new, the marriage bed is undefiled. So me and my husband get to explore one another. The other part that's really great to me is that being with one partner, it eases my mind. And I understand that it's just not all about sex, but when you do start thinking about this and you're starting to have multiple husbands and multiple wives, we do have to discuss that means you're having multiple sex partners. So having one sex partner with my husband, I get to be creative. I now know that I'm giving my body to someone who is the same way. My expectation, if I'm the only person that he's with, there is a safety in our relationship where I'm not having to worry about STDs. I'm not having to worry about STIs. I'm not having to worry about my pH balance being out of whack because I've been with multiple partners. Of course, there's other things that can take a woman's pH balance out of whack, but it's just certain things where there is a safety and where I'm able to be more relaxed in being with him. Just in only him. It's a comfortable and familiarity. That familiarity is not always bad, but there's an exploration that I can have with my husband because there is safety there where I'm not having a lot of worry and concerns because I'm not dealing with multiple partners. I get to examine his body. I get to know the things that he likes, the things that he doesn't like, and we get to explore in the safety of our home.
Yeah, no suspicion.
Right.
No worry.
Right.
No competition.
Right.
No envy.
Right.
No jealousy.
No.
None of all the things that has the ability to come in and divide, separate us from our union, our liking, and our loving of each other.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, I definitely think that it's possible for one person to satisfy you for the rest of your life. I think it's possible. I don't want to put it out there. I think sometimes we make
All right, guys. So you saw that, you heard that. That's the last clip. I'm going to end it on that clip right there. Like they said, one person can absolutely satisfy another person. Now, the thing is finding that match. You got to get out here and find that match. What does that woman look like for you? What does that man look like for you? You got to get out here and find that match. And you've also got to humble yourself when doing so. Don't be superficial, right? Don't get caught up in what's going on social media and how everybody looking and this, that, and the third. A lot of that stuff is blown up. And you're seeing the cream of the crop usually when you scrolling up and down that timeline, right? Whether you're talking about Instagram, I'm gonna say Instagram. Facebook is pretty up and down. I don't think, but on Instagram and even on dating sites, a lot of times you're seeing the cream of the crop, right? That's what's going to be in that feed. And don't get too caught up in that. Find your match. Find someone you're compatible with. Find someone who has respect for you and you have respect for them as well, right? Find someone you can do life with. Find someone who is striving to become the best version of themselves every day, and you should be doing so as well, right? But one person can most definitely satisfy another person, right? You don't need multiple people. Usually if that's the case, or you feel that way, you have something going on spiritually that is wrong with you, right? You need to find a way to truly connect with God. You do. You need to find a way to truly connect with God. If you feel like, oh man, I just got to have multiples. You talking to a guy who, I done had my fair share. You know what I'm saying? I don't even been married multiple times, but I done had my fair share. And I can tell you that one person is all it takes. One person is all it takes. Take my word for it. Take my word for it, right? But in this video, you got to see two perspectives, right? You got to see polyamory, and you got to see a monogamous marriage or relationship, right? You got to see both sides. You can compare the two, right? But one thing I picked up on is the souls were gone with the two individuals who are practicing polyamory, right? It looked like they was just there. Of course, they was laughing and talking and doing this and doing that. But if you look right into them, they just was there, right? Because they're dealing with multiple people, right? And I think that, like I said, I think they've been technically quote unquote married 28 years. And I think it was all the way up into their 12th year they were monogamous, right? And then they started exploring other options, right? But that's a wild story, guys. That's a wild story. But I'm pushing for individuals to get married, be monogamous, right? But find that match first. If you're dealing with a man and he ain't the one, examine that, right? And keep it moving. If you're dealing with a woman and she ain't the one, examine that. Keep it moving. I know it's hard out here to find someone these days. I encourage my men, keep plucking. Keep plucking. Because she's got to follow your program. Keep plucking. And that doesn't mean you have to have sex with all of them. But keep plucking men. Men, you have to keep plucking as you look for these women. Because many of them will not measure up if you're looking for a godly wife. A helpmate who is going to move the way you need her to move. Many of these women won't qualify, but there are some good ones out there. There are some good ones out there, but you got to keep plucking. And when you find it, stop and make a move. When you find it, stop, make a move, cut everybody else off. Cut everybody else off. But that's all I got for you guys today. Like this video, share this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I can be off on this. And again, subscribe to the YouTube, Speaks to Beast. Speaks to Beast. And remember, keep God first. As it says on the wall, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24:15. Again, I love you all. Be blessed.